Dear students, it's a new experience for me and also for you. This is an inauguration class and we have to start history as an optional subject. My students, you may have come from the different educational background, maybe from science, engineering or other technical fields including medical, or even from the background of humanities subjects like other than history. So you are having a lot of queries about the subject first. So here I am just starting from the scratch. What is the subject? What is the basic essence of the subject? Whether this subject is suited to you or not. Because students from particularly science and technical education background field used to pose a very common question. Sir, I am from engineering, I am from science. Can I offer history as my optional subject? First of all, this is applicable almost to all the social sciences, particularly in history. Actually, you will just compare the science subject with social sciences, you will come to realize you will just start to prepare the science subject in post-graduation. So that would be essential for you. You have to undergo with this subject through graduation first. Because if you will not cross the phase of graduation, it is very unlikely situation you will acquire the sufficient knowledge to perceive the subject in totality in post-graduation. So this is the reason hardly will you find any example some students coming from humanities background have offered any natural science as their optional. But in case of social sciences, you will find this is science graduate but offered some social science subject in post-graduation. It is a very common feature, Because in social science, or the nature of social science is different from the subject of natural science. Furthermore, history among social science is a bit different in nature. Because in other social sciences, whether it may be philosophy, political science or any other subject, normally you will find that the first one paper is the theoretical paper. The paper is full of the topics from thinkers and thought. That requires some sort of expertise knowledge or some specific knowledge in the subject. But in case of history, you will find the first paper ancient and medieval history. Although some challenge in the map paper or the map questions which I will discuss with you. But if you have developed a specific methodology for answering the map questions or plot the different places in a map, you will feel comfortable even in this part of the subject. Now, in what way history may be beneficial for you if you are coming from the science and engineering background or any technical education background? I have to share my experience with you in this subject. Throughout my career, which has now crossed nearly 27 years, among my successful students, I can have the larger list of the students who are coming from the science and technical background than the students from humanities background. And history is such an evergreen subject right from the time of Satyendranath Tagore and Subhash Chandra Bose, the subject has remained to be popular in civil services examination. Even presently, this is a very, or you can say one of the most liked subjects among social sciences. Second one thing, unlike other social sciences, you need not having any background knowledge for that. From whichever background you are coming, you will start afresh. You will develop the expertise in the subject. Third one factor is, as myself has perceived, and I have talked to a number of successful students as well. So they have just shared their experience in the subject with me. The subject is much beneficial in preparation of general studies as well. My students, I will not simply teach you history. Rather, I will teach you history plus. History plus means we have to stop the history at the point from where the general studies starts. And my specific strategy would be, in course of preparation of history, at least you should acquire the background knowledge of some other social sciences as well, which I will discuss with you later. Here I can give you the example about culture. From ancient, medieval to modern, you will acquire automatically the knowledge of culture. Furthermore, in course of the study of modern history and contemporary history, you will acquire the knowledge of the background knowledge of the different subjects. The same would happen in case of the world history. But first of all, whenever you have to calculate the value of subject, as helpful behind the GS papers, so here you have to calculate both the direct contribution of the subject and the indirect contribution of the subject. If you are going to count simply direct contribution, then you can count nearly 132 marks or 134 marks. 100 marks directly in mains paper first, which consists of 250 marks. The 100 marks are formed by the subject or the history part of the subject or the paper. Likewise, if you will calculate in prelims paper, in prelims paper you find in GS paper total 200 marks. And number of the questions in history is nearly 16-17 history and culture. If we are taking the standard of the previous to previous year, the number of questions even reached up to 22. But if I am taking it as an exception, so 16 to 17 questions history and culture are just the rules. And one important thing is that so far as the question of the contributions of other social sciences, including geography, is concerned, so their numbers are varied. For example, you can say the contribution of ecology and environment is slightly grew up to 11, but the number of geography has been curtailed. Same happens in case of sometime in polity you will find the large number of questions, sometime the number is sharply declining. Likewise in economics, in other subjects as well. But in case of history, you will not find the declining number less than 14. And what could be the maximum number? I have given you the example of previous to previous year. Now, this is the direct contribution or direct benefit. But my students, very few of you know about the indirect benefit of the subject. History is the mother of all humanity subjects. Suppose you have to make a study of economics. From where you will start? Will you start from the problem of employment and poverty? Then you will never develop the expertise and you can say comfortable with the subject. So first of all, the student who is making a study of economics, polity, whatever may be, if you have to make a study of polity, I think it's better to start from the rise of constitutionalism in the world. First constitution, modern constitution of the world is the British Constitution. Then comes the turn of American Constitution. After that, French Constitution after the Revolution. And then you will find in course of the revolutions of 1848, a number of constitutions have been established in different European countries. Then moving further, you will find that the list is going on. Particularly after the Second World War, when the process of decolonization started, decolonization means that the liberation of colonies started. So then, even the third world countries, or the old colonies emerged with the independent nation like India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, etc., even Pakistan, So they just started to frame their own constitution. So my students, the story starts from the world history itself. Because once we are observing the growth of constitutionalism in the world, so that will definitely give you an added insight into the subject. Then you are coming to the, you can say, background of the constitution making in India. You are observing the different South Asian and Southeast Asian countries as well, not to speak of African countries, because there the liberation started a bit late from 1958 onwards. So this is the case, So the Constituent Assembly, you are just observing in course of the study of contemporary modern history, or you can say modern history itself. Then after framing of the Constitution, as in optional paper you have to cover up to 1964, but in general studies paper a bit more, so I just suggest you don't stop up to 1964, rather I will make you cross even 1970s and reach up to 1980, as it is going to be much beneficial for you in general studies. So there you can very well observe even the evolution of constitution from 1950 onwards, and initially for 4 decades, what challenges Indian constitution had to face, and what was the direction of the constitution perceiving the relations among the 3 organs of the government: executive, judiciary and legislative body. So definitely after that, then you are moving from one to one topic like CAG, like parliament, like executive. So that would be the proper justice to the subject. It's my own perception. The same happens in case of economics as well. For example, there is the question of the economics. Once again, you will just going across the world history. In case of world history, you will naturally observe the rise of capitalism in the world from 17th century onwards, which is known as the commercial phase of capitalism. Then in the end of 18th and in the beginning of 19th century, you will confront industrial revolution in Britain. What was the background behind the rise of industrial revolution in Britain? Then going across further, you just move to other European countries. There was the expansion of the industrialization. That is the part of your topic. You have to do nothing. So, rise of capitalism from there. And then how did the capitalism bring changes in Europe? Positive change as well as the negative change. And then after, what is the basic weakness in capitalist model? The world wars, particularly, world economic depression, 29-30, So, in what way this world economic depression just gave a new direction to international economy? The laissez-faire capitalism, which has earlier been propounded by Adam Smith, in course of a study of world history, you will just witness the ideas of Adam Smith, and then the laissez-faire capitalism. But after world economic depression, it will change its nature. There would be the rise of Keynesian economics. And then, for the first time, the powerful state and fiscal policy of the government. So that will come into the center of capitalist model. So in this way, capitalism changed its nature to save itself. It was the time, particularly after Russian Revolution, the threat of socialism was looming large on the head of capitalism. So Keynesian economics might have fulfilled the dual objectives. On the one hand, it sustained the capitalist economy further, and secondly, it could give a reply to socialism on political front. So in this way, it became a matter of double benefit for capitalism. Then liberation of the colonies, and you will observe that What were the challenges before the colonies, particularly in context of India? How did India choose its economic model under Nehru's government? What was Nehruvian economic model? What were the features of the Nehruvian economic model? What were the benefits of Nehruvian economic model? What were the weaknesses of the model? How did this model just undergo a phase of change under Mrs. Gandhi? How did Nehruvian socialism took extremist form under Mrs. Gandhi, and under what circumstances? Then in what way this so-called Nehruvian model crumbled in course of time? What was the oil crisis of 1970s, and how did it affect Indian economy? In 1980s, how did the progress of Indian economy was just, hampered, and up to end of 1980s, India had to manifest a very severe type of economic crisis leading to the economic liberalization policy. So my students, I think this sort of knowledge, that is, you can say history plus, so that will definitely make you develop a greater expertise on other subjects as well. So I think it is the added advantage in the subject, and you should not ignore it. For example, today you are going through the newspaper, etc. So there we just observe, recently you have observed in order to fight the very worst type of economic crisis the world has come to manifest, Modi's government has just announced a package of 20 lakh crore rupees for giving a boost to economy. So in the many newspapers and even the TV channels, I found the term, this is the New Deal policy of India. Whenever as a student you are observing a New Deal policy of India, so you will be automatically much curious, after all, what is New Deal policy? So this is the point history may be much beneficial for you. And I will always suggest you to take added advantage from the subject. So in this polity, in this economy, and not simply that, even in international relations, from the perspective of world history, you have to develop your, you can say, insight into the issues of international relations as well. For example, in your history subject in the world history, you are supposed to strike the topic up to 2001, and presently this is the 2020. So I think you people have to cross the next 2 decades to touch the latest current of international relations. So that will be a very exciting experience for you, and I will definitely prefer to give you such type of excitement. Here I have to formulated some study material for both those students who are coming from history optional as well as the general studies, because as these topics are gateway to the knowledge of other subjects, so I have recommended to all students to go through the topics through diagram from 1970s to the present era, including the impact of COVID-19 on the world or international relations, international economy, international constitutionalism, or the nature of the state. So I have formulated the topic, and I am excited enough to give you the specific knowledge in the topic. My students, in social sciences, simply this is not important what you read. It is equally important how to read. And questions are not direct in the nature. When students normally start the preparation, so they are just working under this ambitious project and ambitious plan. I will go through this and that book, and I will be in a position to answer all the questions from any specific subject, whether it may be general studies or the optional paper. But there is the one bitter truth, or not simply bitter truth for me, it is an exciting truth, directly questions are not formulated from the books itself. Between the books as well as the question or the examination paper, there should be some mediation of your mind. Either you are taking the, you can say, knowledge from the books, and you are adding the knowledge further through your, you can say, intellectual fermentation, and then you can reformulate your knowledge according to the demand of the question. So hardly will you find any question you can take directly from the books and place the questions on the paper. So that's why, my students, I am just suggesting you to have patience, and bits by bits you will come to know about the nature of the humanities subject themselves. Now I am coming to history. It's my suggestion. Even if you are going through too many books, too many sources, that is not beneficial. Here on my app, I will just give you the certain knowledge about the NCERT books as well. From time to time, I will give you the book review as well. But that will be the supplementary knowledge. My first objective is to make you formulate a very systematic ideas about the changes in history. If someone is going to ask you, every subject is having some basic essence, what is the basic essence of the subject? You will simply reply that the basic essence of the subject history is the knowledge of change. And dear students, I will prefer, because you are coming from very good background, you are very laborious, very, you can say, a man of commitment. So I can hope that whenever I just provide you the knowledge systematically, you will just get the maximum benefit from this knowledge. Now, I am starting from the scratch. This is the basic things I have discussed with you, but a lot of secrets are still awaiting. And whenever you are moving from topic to topic, the things would be more clear to you. So in course of moving further, I will satisfy some other queries as well. Now come to the subject as a history, and we are going to start from the scratch. So it hardly matters whatever background you are coming, you have to start afresh. So now be ready, one by one I am moving. Firstly, I am going to discuss the topic, what is history, how do you define it? Just 1 minute. Actually, if you are observing it, you may find that, this is not clearly visible, because in fact, you should not get perturbed at all. In PDF form, you will be simultaneously given this study material, this is given to you. Furthermore, you will be given a separate booklet for history, for making a study at your home. Because I will simply recommend you the basic NCERT books, which I will discuss with you later. You can go through for ancient history, the NCERT book class 6th for the basic study. Then a book, History of Indian Ancient History by R.S. Sharma and Ram Sharan Sharma for basic study. And apart from that, you are having the NCERT book in class 12th for ancient, medieval and modern. You will purchase the books and just keep the books at your home. In class 12th, in ancient history or medieval or modern, you will find 5 to 6 selected topics. But whatever topics have been just formulated there, so the topics and the knowledge given by the books are up to mark and standard, and so that is desirable. You will go through that. That is definitely beneficial for you. So my point is that is for the basic study. As for the books, I will not recommend you the book. You have to depend over my PDF class lecture, and above all, the booklets I myself will provide you. And suppose if I need, I will recommend you certain pages in certain books. For example, if you have to purchase some books at your home, if the presently even the market is closed, if the bookshop is available just nearby without taking any risk, you can purchase certain books for ancient history, and that will be just placed on your bookshelf, and you have to wait for me, because whenever whichever topic I'll just recommend you to go through, you will simply go through the topic. Because if you are not making a study systematically, so simply your time would be wasted. And as you are having the limited time, so it is in your interest to maximize the profit through time management. So that's why I'm recommending you. Better to purchase one book, Early India by Romila Thapar, apart from R.S. Sharma. Early India, please hear, Early India by Romila Thapar. Next one, Ancient and Early India by Upinder Singh. The two books you should purchase and keep at your bookshelf. You should not go through them. You will just consult the books whenever I'll recommend you. So please wait up to my advice. Now, I myself will give you the booklet. Mainly you have to, in booklet I will give you in the physical form through post and through postal facilities that will reach at your home, and you have to collect them and go through it according to my own advice. So, but in this PDF form and daily basis you will get at your home comfortably. So even if, but there is possibly the grace from the side of Saraswati, or Saraswati has just brought some sort of compulsion before the students that whenever you are going to take the pen in your hand, so after taking the pen in your hand, only then you will get the knowledge. So that's why I'm recommending you will just keep your copy, give the title Ancient History, and start with me. And while just following my lecture, whatever you think fit, better to write it. In online course, one benefit is I am not to stop to give you the special dictation. You can pause the video, and through pausing the video whenever you require, you can note down the things. So that is the added benefit, and that will save our time, and we can utilize the time and spend the time with some other purpose. My first issue is what is history? How do we define it? So history is a dialogue between past and the present. Actually, there is a very reputed scholar, E.H. Carr. E.H. Carr, keep the name in your mind. So he has defined history. History is a correspondence between the past and the present, or present and the past. Actually, this statement is so important that normally I am making my students or giving the final touch in interview, because even in interview board they can ask you the question, what is history? Sometimes even the members try to divert you, or they would try to create some pressure while giving a very distorted picture. Very, you can say, intimately, they will ask you the question, one of the members, not they, he, Mr. Sanjeev or Mr. whatever, why are you going to offer history as the subject, although you are coming from engineering background or so background? It is just like to undig a dead body lying behind the earth that is rotten. Why are you just undigging a dead body that is unpleasant episode? Better to forget it. Why are you wasting your time? In that situation, I am suggesting my students to take some smile. Because you will not take some smile, then definitely the pressure will appear on your face. And it is here you have to give the reply, sir, I think if we have to perceive the present or explain the present in its actual form and in its actuality, and if we have to get some direction for the future, so it is a major compulsion before us to dig out dig out the earth and to explore the dead body, what you call history. Because history is after all a correspondence between the present and the past. So that's why we are compelled to dig out the past to get the specific direction of the future and to explain the present in real context. They will not stop there simply. They will ask you, they will pose you another question as well. Please give me some example. Better to cite the example, then I will be clear. So then, whenever you will go through the subject, automatically you will get a lot of examples. I am finding some example ki whenever after the First World War, there was the Treaty of Versailles. In this treaty, Germany was heavily penalized. So German nationalism was so grieved that finally a sense of vengeance among Germans resulted into the outbreak of the Second World War. So whenever Mrs. Gandhi was signing similar agreement with Pakistan, so she was a bit retaliatory and she was willing to penalize Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Pakistan very, you can say, rigorously. But D.P. Dhar was his foreign secretary and he is characterized as the Henry Kissinger of India. Henry Kissinger is the very successful diplomat of USA. He suggested Mrs. Gandhi that don't, please madam, don't repeat this mistake, because the same was done in Treaty of Versailles or Peace Conference and whole of Europe had to pay for that. So my students, you can cite this example or you can cite even some other example as well. So in this way, this is the definition of history. Furthermore, I have given the information that economics, sociology, political sciences mainly focus on modern era. History as a social science talks about the past of the present. A past of the present, go through the NCERT book, even the class 6th NCERT book, 7th or 8th NCERT book. One is ancient, medieval and modern history, our past. They are using the term our past, not our past, our past. मतलब not हमारा अतीत, हमारे अतीत, in plural, in place of singular, because our past cannot be a single version of the past. There may be the multiple versions of the past. So that's why our past, you know. In this book you will find that sometime whenever you are going through the newspaper, you are taking a cup of tea in the morning. Have you ever thought, where did you start the tea? Was there even our ancient people are taking tea or going through the newspaper? Whenever did the publication of newspaper start? Have you ever thought about that? In ancient history, although I am just forgetting the name of the character, but possibly Ramesh or whatever may be, he just moving in a train with his family. He was just sitting by the side of the window. He was observing outside of the window through running train. And his gaze is falling on the vast field. So he started to think that presently you are moving fastly through the, you can say, the modern line of communication, transportation like train. But what could happen to our forefathers? How did they move? And how did they move from region to region? So in this way, you know, then he is going into flashback and the whole story is moving toward the early man in India. So what is this? This is that today if you have come to the 21st century, so do you know the past of the present? My students, believe, suppose you will just tell me some story of the 19th century, I will never try to hear the story alone. My common curiosity had to move towards 18th century. What happened before that? And then what happened before that? So while questioning what happened before that, I used to move up to antiquity. So likewise, whenever I am moving to antiquity, so normally, suppose you can say, in world history, your syllabus starts from 18th century Enlightenment. But this is the most painful moment for me as well, whenever I am going to start your syllabus directly from 18th century. Because enlightenment is the ideological evolution of, or you can say ideological development of the world history. European history. So the question arises that ideology does not just, you can say, evolve from the vacuum. It is having the very tangible material basis. So what is that material basis? And how did the background of the material basis has been prepared? So automatically I am moving to 18th to 17th century, then 17th to 16th, 15th century, 14th century. So obviously I am tempted to move to ancient Europe first. So although I will just give you very limited time, but I will make you just peep into ancient Europe first, or ancient world, even India, West Asia, this religion, this sect, that sect. You will be surprised to know that not simply to the students of the optional paper, but even this, I am just teaching in general studies paper in world history. I always start with some glimpses of ancient history, ancient world first. Then you are moving to Jesus, crucifixion of Jesus Christ, etc. Who crucified them? What is the purpose behind that? Buddhism, Jainism in India, Zoroastrianism in Persia, Christianity in Europe. What is the Confucianism in China? And then moving to medieval Europe, and from medieval Europe, then we are moving to modern Europe. So in this way, we are just moving further from. So this is the very new type of experience. And then we are coming to medieval Europe. How feudalism, firstly in ancient Roman Empire, then partition of Roman Empire within the Western and the Eastern sphere, or you can say Byzantine Empire. Then further, after the disintegration of Western Roman Empire, then how did medievalism started in Europe? Then, what were the features of the medieval age in Europe? What was the feudal formation? Then how did change start after the decline of Constantinople and the process of modernization started? It is here I also object about the fact that it was the time in 15th century and up to, you can say, early 18th century, China and India were having the largest contribution of the world GDP, although there was not the concept of GDP, but if you are taking the total production. So first or center place was occupied by China, then India. But you will go earlier, India was occupying the first position. And then China was at that time the very larger country. It was technologically, it was advanced. It was managing the bigger ships. Even the China was having some esprit to discover the new areas, because Zheng He was supposed to be a Chinese sailor. He moved up to Indian Ocean as well as Arabian Sea or eastern coast of Africa. But why did China lag behind European discoverers? How did European discoverers reach up to American continent, and how did the resources of, and particularly the precious metal of America, transform Europe? So moving from there, then you are coming to Renaissance, Reformation, Commercial Revolution, Mercantilism, rise of nation state, 30 Years War. Then you will come to Enlightenment. So before coming to Enlightenment, at least I have to allocate 4 classes first. Is it the wastage of time? Now you have to make a judgment. Is it the wastage of time? This is the most constructive, you can say, most useful and constructive, application of the time. So this is the case I have to discuss with you. So in this way, you will find what is history and how will you define it. Therefore, you should keep an eye on the present while studying the past. And we should also understand the past while studying the present. My students, you have so far, I'm making an appeal to those students who might have gone through science subject or any technical subject. Even you might have gone through NCERT books, because most of you may come from the CBSE syllabus. And then you may have gone through the same NCERT book in your class 10th, in class 9th. After 10th, your career could have taken a different turn. But at that time, you have definitely not done justice toward this subject. Definitely, I can imagine, but presently you have to do. And firstly, because at that time, your whole career orientation is towards some other courses like, engineering, medical, etc. But now you are moving for the preparation of UPSC. So once again, you are starting from the scratch. And the same NCERT book, you have to move for the basic knowledge. So this is, past and the present. And once you just test this sort of study or method, so after some time you will start enjoying the subject. I am confident about the fact. Of the next one issue, I have to move. What is the conceptual basis to demarcate historical periods? What is the conceptual basis for the demarcation of historical periods? Today, if you are moving through Indian history, you may use the term ancient history, medieval history, and modern history. But this was not the case. It is a very unfortunate situation. The study of Indian history was started first by a British scholar, and that was James Mill. James Mill has written the history of India in 1817. I have informed here. And James Mill has definitely distorted the interpretation of Indian history. One reason being, possibly he was not familiar with the Indian condition, and secondly, he was guided by the British colonial interest as well. There were the two factors. So he just divided Indian history in three periods and gave a very unique type of nomenclature like Hindu period, Muslim period, and British period. Now, actually, I will not go into the details here, because in the next one topic, I will involve the topic in the next class on historiography. So there we have to make an assessment of the terms, whether is it justified or not, the term Hindu period, Muslim period, and British period. So here we have not to verify the authenticity of the terms. Here I am simply naming the terms: Hindu period, Muslim period, and British period. But in course of time, first our nationalist scholars and then Marxist scholars rejected these terms, and instead they gave a new nomenclature like ancient period, medieval period, and modern period. So presently, this tripartite division of Indian history, ancient period, medieval period, and modern period. So these three terms today exist. Here you find that there are two significant limitations. Here I have just made familiar with the James Mill and given you the information. James Mill has given this in PDF form. You will just get it, and if you deem fit better to note it down in your copy. From scratch you have to start. Now another issue is the terms like Hindu period, Muslim period, and British period. These terms have been replaced now. But the question arises, are the terms justified? Hindu period, Muslim period, and British period? Not. The second one term, then the terms have been replaced by the new nomenclature like ancient period, medieval period, and modern period. Are they justified? Yes, to a certain extent, but not a greater extent. Because here also we are following the European line of historiography. That is the Eurocentric view. Actually, in Europe, after the disintegration of Roman Empire, a new era is supposed to have started, that is medieval period. And earlier than that, it was given a name ancient period. Earlier it was given the name ancient period. Then now you know a new name medieval period. Now here my point is, and then after the decline of Constantinople, modern period. So that is true of European society. Why did we follow the European method of division of time? We should have developed our own method based on the changes in our own society. So even the terms like ancient period, medieval period and modern period are not, you can say, properly justified. Was the new three-part division of history based on new names reasonable? This point I have already discussed. You people have to note it down. I have replied the same thing I have already discussed with you. So that is desirable. You can go through it. What should be the demarcation line for the study of different phases within the rubric of ancient Indian history? For time being, forget ancient, medieval and modern name. As you have started from ancient history, so we are coming to ancient history itself. Even ancient period, the term ancient period needs to be subdivided into different phases. Prehistorical and historical. So prehistorical phase and historical phase. But between the two, a third one phase has also been conceived, or third one segment of the time, that is proto-historical phase. Here you find prehistorical period and then historical period. What is the basis of division between the two? For this prehistorical period, you can see here the basis of division is, whenever we are talking about the prehistorical period, for the study of the period, only archaeological evidence is available. Literary evidence is not available at all. And you can ask me the question, what is the difference between the two? My students, I very well know the fact that you have just started. So you may find some difficulty, some challenge, and even the term archaeological, literary evidence, etc. Actually, whenever you are making a study of ancient history, so obviously we are exploring the time period that we have left far behind, hundreds and thousands years back. So the question arises, how can you manifest the time period which we have left hundreds and thousands years back? So the only basis is you have to find some sort of witness there. So eyewitness is not available. So witness is the literary evidence, means literary text, as well as the archaeological evidence. So literary evidence means ancient texts which have been compiled by different scholars. Although they are not purely historical texts, many of the texts are full of mythology, but still we can use the text as the source of study. Likewise, whenever you are talking about archaeological source, so that is what? That is monuments, numismatics. Monuments means the temples, etc., palaces, etc. Numismatics means coins. Epigraphy means inscriptions. Inscriptions means on stone or on copper. The kings and even the private people used to engrave some letters, memorizing some things, or just like you can say a memorial. So these are known as, inscriptions. So we are exploring them for the study of history. So that is called archaeological evidence in material form. So my point is, for the study of the period, you are although having the archaeological evidence, but not literary evidence, because the people have not developed the script so far. So that is known as prehistorical period, and on this basis, we can earmark two periods, Paleolithic period and Mesolithic period. And next one is historical period. So for the study of the period, you are not simply having the archaeological and literary evidence, but also the foreign account, or you can say the different sources. So that is known as historical period, and this historical period is supposed to have started from 6th century BCE onwards. अब here I am making you clear, persistently you have to use the term BCE and CE. So BCE, actually earlier the preferred term was BC, before Christ. Jesus Christ was supposed to be born on 0, although practically on 4th of the 1st century, 4th year of the 1st century. So making it a 0 year, then the counting of era started. So that is known as before Christ. And AD means Anno Domini, means ki after Christ. Anno Domini, that is the name given to Christ. But later, it was a Eurocentric view and it was having the dominance of Christianity. So then scholars from different sects started to put some challenge to this concept. Why are you imposing Christianity on the whole of the world history? So after that, the preferred term is BC, before Common Era, and C, Common Era. So here I am using the term BCE, from 6th century BC in history, in ancient history, that is known as Buddha age or Mahajanpada age. So during this period, it is supposed to have reached up to historical phase. But between the two, a transition phase is also accepted, and that is known as the proto-historical phase. Now you can ask me the question, because the next one issue is that proto-historical you find here, and in this PDF you will just at your home you will just go through it. Proto-historical, there is the two different bases for deciding the proto-historical. One basis is for the study of the period, you are having archaeological and literary evidence both, but literary evidence is not in use. Maybe a script could not have been deciphered. Maybe if you are having the language but not the script, so literary evidence is not properly used. And on this basis, you can earmark the two periods, Harappan civilization as well as the Vedic period, under proto-historic. But there is another criteria as well. According to this criteria, whenever agriculture started, so then this period is counted as the proto-historic phase as agriculture started. And on this basis, even Neolithic and Chalcolithic periods should be counted under and calculated under this phase. So that's why you can say for prehistoric, Paleolithic period and Mesolithic period, and proto-historic, Neolithic, Chalcolithic, Harappan civilization, even Vedic civilization you can count. And then come the turn of historical period I have told you. Now, in course of the study of Indian history, I have tried to simplify the things for you. Although I cannot make a compromise with the standard, but as far as possible, I will always try to simplify the things. So in ancient part of history, I have divided the ancient part of history in two phases, or you can say two parts. In whole Indian history, better to count whole Indian history. For the sake of your convenience, I have divided in 6 segments, or you can say 6 parts. First part is, prehistoric and proto-historic phase. In prehistoric and proto-historic phase, I have already mentioned about that. So better to observe it. Prehistoric and proto-historic. Here you can say Paleolithic age, from lakhs of years ago to 10,000 lakhs of years ago to 10,000 BC. And from Mesolithic age, from 10,000 BC to 6,000 years BC and 6,000 BC. Neolithic age from 6,000 BC to 3,500 BC and before Common Era. And Chalcolithic age from 3,500 BC onwards. That will continue. Then comes the term Harappan civilization and Bronze Age from 2600 BC to 1900 BC. And later Harappan cultures means not one culture but so many cultures, 1900 BC to 1300 BC, and Megalithic age from 1300 BC to 500 BC. 5000 BC. 500 BC. That's right. My students, I will just earmark this part as the separate phase. And I will give you a new experience for the study of this period. Because what is the feature of this part? For the study of this part, we are not having the literary evidence, the support of literary evidence, including Harappan civilization. Because its script has not been deciphered. But simply we are depending on the archaeological evidence. So here also we have to underline the changes, but the separate method had to be adopted. Up here normally you are making a study at your home. So most of the energy one student is going to pour over a single one topic, and the topic is Harappan civilization at the negligence of other topics. But I think this is a lopsided development. Suppose you will just go through Harappan civilization. You are coming to the manifesting the first urbanization in Indian subcontinent. So at least this urbanization should have some basis of the socio-economic changes. So the basis of the socio-economic changes are being prepared during Chalcolithic period and Neolithic period. And you cannot imagine Neolithic period without the development in Mesolithic period, which is the phase of transition between Paleolithic and Neolithic. So my students, if you have to make a study of Harappan civilization, we cannot make a study or do justice to this civilization while separating it from the previous development. So that will definitely give you a very new type of experience in study. It's my confidence. Now, next one. So this one, literary evidence and this part. Second one phase. My point is, just 1 minute. My point is, even during this period, you have to underline the changes. But as literature is not available, so we are not having the profuse ideas about the period, but whatever ideas we have gathered from archaeological evidence, so on that basis, we will try to underline the changes. Now, next one we are moving through. So then, we are just moving to the second one phase, but in second one phase, these topics had to be followed. In second one phase, we have divided history for the sake of convenience. Vedic period, Maurya period, Vedic period, you have to observe here, Vedic period, 1500 BC to 600 BC, the age of Buddha or Mahajanpada, the 600 BC to 400 BC, then Maurya is 400 BC to 200 BC, then post-Maurya is 200 BC to 300 CE, because now we have just entered into the Christian era, means Common Era. And then Gupta is 300 CE to 600 CE. Then comes the turn post-Gupta 600 CE to 750 CE. Early medieval age 750 CE to 1200 CE. So these are the topics. Now you can very well observe the topics, and we will just reach up to. Here the point is, you may have realized one thing, early medieval age, although it is attached to medieval age, but I have placed consciously while attaching it to the topics of the ancient period. What is the reason behind that? Because whenever you will observe the elements of changes, particularly from post-Maurya period onwards, so it is from these changes early medieval age had to attached. So that's why I have consciously placed early medieval age in the second part of history that is associated with ancient period. And whenever you will enter into the third one phase, So third one phase had to consist of the Delhi Sultanate and Mughal period. So third one part had to consist the Delhi Sultanate and Mughal period. And next one, modern history should be divided into four subparts or four parts. One is the history of 18th century, then the history of colonialism in modern history. You will just manifest there the different experience. Then the history of nationalism, and the last one post-independence era. So for your convenience, I have divided Indian history in 7 parts. This is the second one part. Up, you may ask me the question, what is the basis of division between the first one part and second one part? So I have told you earlier, for the study of the first part, we are simply depending over the archaeological evidence, as literary evidence is not available for the study. But in the study of this period, as from Vedic period onwards, you will just depending on the literary evidence to a certain extent. Although Vedic period is different in that sense, on one ground, it belongs to proto-historic phase. Because reason being, you will come to know about Vedic literature. But actually, the speciality of the Vedic people was that they were having the vast corpus of literature, but the literature is not recorded, not written, because the Vedic people could not develop any script. So then you may be a bit curious, then in what way their literature or their knowledge had to be carried on. So it is through oral tradition from generation to generation. So there is the question of authenticity, whether the literature is the authentic source of knowledge or not. So that's why it is falling into the proto-historic period as well. So that is the part, the age of Buddha, that is Maurya period, post-Mauryan period, Gupta age, post-Gupta age, early medieval age. So all form the part of the history. Now in this phase, just 1 minute earlier than that, second one phase. In this phase, you have to underline the changes. In what way you will underline the changes? In the next one slide, I will make you clear. How important are the historical dates? This is the very ticklish question. And I myself has to confront these questions various times before students. Normally the new students are asking me the question, sir, how can I go through history? People say, I don't myself feel, they used to quote, the people say, these are full of facts. You are supposed to memorize so many dates and events. How can you memorize them? This is the most distorted interpretation of history as a subject, and a greater injustice on the part of the evaluator. This sort of history might have existed earlier than 1950. Because from 1950 onwards, history started to verge on different social sciences and it became multidisciplinary. So there is no question of history being the record of events. Go through your NCERT book, class 8th. In the first one chapter, you have to go through. There in this book, they have started to talk about dates. What are the relevance of the dates? So they used to pose the question, how important are the historical dates? So it was in this context, he raised the question, the understanding and outlook of history have changed in recent times, though a broader time frame is considered important for logical demarcations. Actually, point is that dates were important in history. Dates were important in history when, you can very well imagine, when we are making a study of dynastic history. So even the coronation of a king, or a specific war which occurred during the period of any king. So their dates are going to be very important. So whenever making a study of the history of dynasties, political dynasties, so at that time the dates were important. But today history means the history of socio-economic history. And you have to underline the changes in social, economic and cultural spheres. So how can the date be so important now? Here I can give you the example. Earlier, the medieval age is supposed to have started from the invasion of Muhammad Ghori in 1192 in the Battle of Tarain. But now it is widely believed that the medieval age should have started with the feudal formation in India, right from the time feudalism started in India. And as for the beginning of feudalism is, I'll discuss about, because feudalism is the specific topic. Some of you may not be familiar with the term feudalism. I am sorry for that. But feudalism is some sort of a political, economic and social structure which is being dominated by an intermediary class, that is the feudal lord. So that is known as feudalism. During this period, the common people had to suffer a lot due to the oppressive role of intermediaries, and even the institution of monarchy was weakened. So that is known as the feudal formation in India. This is supposed to have started from 6th, 7th century onwards. There is not a specific date for the beginning of feudal formation. So obviously you can say, it is on this basis we can say the dates are today not so important as they used to be earlier. So that is the point here. Now Muhammad Ghori, invasion of Muhammad Ghori, the same point, you can go through it. Now what sort of strategies should be adopted to develop a deeper understanding of the history of the subject? Here I have to inform you the best strategy is, and that will inculcate your natural interest into the subject. If someone is going to ask you the question, what is history, you will simply reply, history means to underline the forces of changes in political, economic, social and cultural fields. And that is the basic essence of the subject and the beauty of the study of history. You have to underline the changes. So you will underline the changes in the first phase, which I have discussed with you earlier. And you have to underline the change even in the second phase or second part. The first part means you can say prehistory and proto-history. And the second part is, that is, from historical phase onwards, Vedic period, Buddha age, Maurya, post-Maurya, Gupta, post-Gupta, early medieval age. So there also, what could have been the method, because I'll discuss with you. In the first one part, we have to observe how there is a climatic change, how the climatic change made the technological change possible, how did technological change has brought the change in subsistence pattern of the people. Subsistence pattern means livelihood. How did the change in subsistence pattern affected the social relations? And then, subsistence pattern and social relations give a direction to the cultural structure of the time. So moving from Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, Harappan civilization onwards, you will observe the changes. Likewise, for the second phase, here the study of history you have to observe. I have told you. For the second one phase, a second one part, for the study of Vedic period, Buddha age, Maurya period, post-Maurya period, Gupta period, post-Gupta period, etc. This diagram should be followed from Vedic period onwards. Here history would be enjoyable. History would be enjoyable for you. Here. In what way? I have to share something with you. Whenever I myself was a student, although I was having the history background, but still whenever I came for preparation of civil services exam. So the university pattern for the study of history was different from the nature of preparation in civil services examination. At that time, there was not fashion of coaching institutes. 1 and 2 institutes were running, but I did not find there up to mark or that could fulfill my requirements, so I have not made any contact with them. Then I have just went to my seniors, and one of the seniors who were making a claim of some experience, so I have just consulted him and just inquired what should be the way. So he has taken a pen into his hand and he underlined ki just go through the economy, society and religion under Harappan civilization, then move to Vedic period, go through society and religion, and then move to Buddha period, go through the Magadha Empire, then Buddhism, Jainism, and then move to Maurya Empire, then Mauryan administration and Ashokan Dhamma. So although I myself was a beginner, but whenever I observed the whole syllabus, so returned home and then I have gone through the question. I realized that in university, the pattern of the question was, in university days, to throw light on the basic precepts of Buddhism with proper examples, or underline the features of Maurya administration. So this was the pattern of the questions, but whenever I observed the question paper in civil services examination, I came to realize that most of the questions are applied and inferential in nature, and whenever someone is going through the book and just observe the question paper, so normally the questions are in 2 parts, and even if he will just do the first part, for the second part he will require the additional knowledge. So I lost my confidence then. I came to realize how is it possible in this pattern, how can you move further? So then, just like Buddha, I started to think, and as Buddha manifested knowledge at Bodh Gaya and he was so excited, so I myself did. And then I have invented this formula which I am going to discuss with you. I came to realize, just like it was an enlightenment for me, that to know slightly more is easy, but to be selective is always difficult. The first difficulty is that I will not inculcate my interest in the subject. Secondly, I will not develop my confidence in the subject. And thirdly, the dimensions of questions are so vast that I will not fulfill the requirement of the questions. So whenever the 3 big barriers are, or 3 big obstacles are there, how can I overcome the obstacles and get through the examination? So this formula has benefited me a lot. And then after that I spread the formula in my first one, whenever I have just came to address you while talking about my app. So there I have just told you one thing. I myself is having some experience which I will share with you. So this sort of experience I am just telling you. So from the part 2, I am going to apply this method for analysis of history which I have to share with you. Now take one period. You have to go through Vedic period, Buddha age, Maurya period, post-Maurya period, Gupta period, post-Gupta period and early medieval age. So suppose take Vedic period. So even the Vedic period can be subdivided between the Rig Vedic period and later Vedic period, So here first take Rig Vedic period and then divide it in political, economic, social and cultural part. spheres. So firstly, select the theme political. Even the political should be subdivided into two different subparts. One is territorial expansion, another is administration. So as you have to do the map work as well, and I just give you some ideas about the map work in the very early time in course of the study in the first one topic itself. Means whenever I will start from prehistory onwards. So you will take a map, I will provide you the map, plain map, and you have to get it xeroxed at your home, and then you have to, or even you can find from the, I think in net and exactly the UPSC map, you will manifest the map which is provided by UPSC itself. So in first one, you will take the map and try to observe first what is the expansion of Rigvedic Aryans. So you will just obviously will observe it will start from this Rigvedic period. Actually, this method is useful not simply for the students of history in mains, but in prelims and all parts, UGC examination, anywhere. This is the basic essence of the you can say basic method, and the basic knowledge and foundational knowledge is this. And this foundational knowledge will fulfill at least 70% requirement of any examination, you can see. And then according to the specialized demand of the examination, for the rest 30% you are supposed to do. So you will take up, suppose you have to answer a question in prelims. You will choose Rigvedic Aryans were familiar with which region? Point 1, Afghanistan. Point 2, Haryana. Point 3, Rajasthan. Point 3, Central India. If some students are simply try to collect the facts and answer the questions, he will definitely be nervous while observing the question. It is just like a game for him, whatever region I have to select. No, Afghanistan, how can you select Afghanistan, or how can you select Rajasthan or Haryana? So on every choice they will get the confusion. But whenever you will observe the work on the map, starting from Rigvedic Aryans, expansion of Rigvedic Aryans was in eastern Afghanistan. From eastern Afghanistan, they just covered Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, even Kashmir. But Kashmir is not here the choice. And up to western UP. So as you have drawn the lining of the boundary of Rigvedic Aryans, so there is no question to miss any point. And so far as the question of source is concerned, so source is not creating any big difficulty for you. And why not creating any big difficulty for you? Because here my point is, because the question paper is always, that is not a big difficulty for you, because whenever you will just find the questions, so simply while observing the choice, you can deal with the questions. So here you can say territorial expansion and the expansion of Rigvedic Aryans. And then you have to move to the other factor, administration. So suppose in Rigvedic Aryans we are having the only source Rigveda. So you will just observe the administration of Rigvedic Aryans, and you will simply observe the 6 to 7 points as the features. So you just mention about every feature and some example. So suppose 6 features you have observed here, leave it here. Then you have to move the economy. Agriculture, crafts, commerce and trade, money, economy and urbanization. But in Rigveda, you will simply manifest agriculture and crafts. And apart from that, animal husbandry or cattle breeding, that is the occupation. Animal husbandry or cattle breeding. So whatever the features of Rigvedic economy, 5 to 6 points you will just underline. Then you will just move to this society, Varna and Jati, women, conditions of Sudraj and untouchables. So this topic is applicable to all other, these points are applicable to some other topics, not here. But you will just mention about, but in Rigvedic society, you will simply mention about Varna. After Varna, Jati system, or what you know as the caste that did not develop. Women condition is better. So Varna, Jati and condition of women, you will discuss about that, total 6 features or whatever maybe. Then you are coming to cultural, so religion and philosophy. What was the religion of Rigvedic Aryans? 5 to 6 features with proper examples, and philosophical aspect is associated with religion. As for language and literature, Sanskrit language and simply single one text, Rig Veda I will mention, and another text is Jind Avesta in Iran, that is not concerned with India, so you can leave it. Art and architecture, the history of art and architecture had to start from Maurya period onwards, so you have to leave it. Now you are moving to the Vedic period, later Vedic period. You will follow the same formula. Territorial expansion means take the map. What is the expansion of later Vedic Aryans? So you will just come to the upper Gangetic basin. Upper Gangetic basin you will just reach up to the Rigvedic Aryans, starting from Punjab onwards. So in this way you will just reach there on the map. Then administration in Rig Veda or Rigvedic period, you have underlined 6 to 7 features with proper examples. So in later Vedic period, you will simply underline what are the changes. So 6 and 7 features the changes. Or if you find any additional feature, you will mention it with the proper examples. The same you will do in the form of economy. The change in economy, the change in society with proper examples. Then you are moving to other aspects like religion and philosophy. What changes you just underline. Then you are moving to language and literature. What changes you have just underlined. So these you are going to underline all these changes up to later Vedic period. Then you are moving to Buddha age. Following same formula, you have to underline the change with proper features and examples in the same hierarchy: political, economic, social, cultural. Then you are coming to Maurya period. From Maurya period, even art and architecture will come under your ambit. So in this way, the changes are going on, and you are just observing the changes. So these are the features. Quite interesting is this. Interesting in what sense? Interesting in that sense, you are just underlining the changes, and you can make the vertical study and horizontal study both side by side. Vertical study and horizontal study means, in vertical study, suppose you have to make a study of simply Buddha age. You will observe there what is the expansion of Buddha age, what was the background behind state formation, how the 16 Mahajanpadas, in what way the expansion of Magdhan Empire, then you are what is the background behind the success of Magdhan Empire, etc. Then you are moving to the administration. What were the features of administration with the proper examples? Likewise in the economy, what is the background behind the development of agriculture, craft, trade, money economy, and second urbanization in Indian subcontinent. So in this way, society, in what way the Varna caste system developed, the condition of women declined, the Buddhist texts have for the first time have talked about some lower caste, etc., untouchables, etc. So you are just moving through. Likewise, in philosophy, religion, Buddhism, Jainism, different heterodox sects, etc. But my students, in this way you have covered Maurya period, post-Maurya period. You will make a vertical study whenever you like. But suppose you have decided that now you have to underline the changes in religion or changes in society, you will do the same. The horizontal study. You will simply observe Vedic society, then you will move to Buddha age society, then Maurya age society, post-Maurya age society, Gupta age society, post-Gupta age society, early medieval age. So in this way, you are moving from one period to another period, and you are not simply making vertical study, but even horizontal study. And horizontal study will make the knowledge of history quite exciting for you and useful for you. And in UPSC, you are supposed to be a thinking creature. It was not the vertical study, but it is the horizontal study which will make you a thinking creature. So this is, I think, a most successful method. You will apply this method, even part 3rd. In part 4th and 5th, I will just invent some new theory. But a time will come that someone is going to ask you to observe, throw light on religion from Vedic period or from ancient period till modern period or socio-religious reforms movement of 19th century. You will easily move through it and give you the lecture in half an hour, 40 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever may be. very new type of experience you will manifest there. And this is the easiest form for the study of history. This is the message I just want to give you. The subject is the knowledge of change, not the knowledge of facts. What you know as the facts, informations. So these are simply examples. Suppose you will find an example कि in Buddhist text, the 62 sects have been mentioned, religious sects. Sects means different religious groups. And in Jaina text, 363. But this can be a data. But if you just observe conceptually and you will make an exploration of the data, you will come to realize that here the multiplication of religious sects should be explained in context of the socio-economic changes of the Buddha age. So that will give you the added advantage. So this one point. Now you are underlining the changes, so this formula had to be followed. Now we are underlining the changes, so I have here given some formula to you how to underline the changes. Here there are the two circles, two diagrams. Of this circle, the circle number first has been divided among the four different subcircles. One is political, economic, social and cultural. You can observe the first circle is political, the second one economic, the third one social and the fourth one cultural. What is the message given by the diagram number first? The message given by diagram number first is that whenever you are underlining the changes, so you have to be careful about the fact that political changes is too much fast. There would be the formation of some state. The state would be transformed into an empire. Once again, after the disintegration of the empire, there will be the formation of the smaller states. So you will observe from ancient to modern history, you will realize one thing, the formation of the states and the formation of empires and breaking of the empires are too much fast. But you are observing the economy or economic factor, you will come to realize the economic change is slightly less intense than political change. Then you will observe social factor, you will realize that social change is slightly slower than economic change. And finally you will come to realize that cultural change is the most slow, because supremacy of Brahmins have been established in Vedic period. So this supremacy has continued till today in some form. So in this way, you know, the diagram number first has given the idea about the change. What you know as the diagram number second, so that is exclusively reflected the Marxist interpretation of history. What is the Marxist interpretation of history? I will discuss with you in topic of historiography. Here you can realize that this is the political, the first circle, just like, and second one circle social and third one circle cultural. But the innermost circle is economic. Here what is the message of this? Message is whenever the changes are going on, so economic change is the basis of all the changes, political, social and cultural. Whenever there is the question of primacy, so economic factor is always having the primacy. Here I have to discuss with you whenever I will teach you Marxist historiography. Karl Marx has earlier told has given a materialistic interpretation of history, and according to him, in order to have the control over the economic structure, the class struggle is going on, and some class which emerges to be victorious party, so that is the dominant class, and this class came to have the control over the economic structure. So in order to perpetuate its control, it brings certain changes in political, social and cultural structure as well. So what you know as the political, social and cultural structure, so these are not independent, rather they are subservient to the economic change. This idea may be a bit complex for you, but have patience. In the next one topic, whenever I will come to historiography, next one topic. So then I'll discuss this aspect as well. So in sum total, but whatever was delivered by Marx, so that has not been adopted by Marxist historians in toto. Rather, later some other Marxist historians like Antonio Gramsci brought some specific changes. Even the ideas of Gramsci have been appropriated by Marxist scholars. So now it is widely believed that if the economic change just bring or create the background for political, social and cultural change, so in return even political, social and cultural changes put their impact on economic change. So in this way you will just find that the dialecticism between the economic and political, social and cultural change finally prepared the way for the changes in history. Whenever I will teach you historiography, I will make this point clear. As for example, you can say, now if you are going through, I have quoted the name of R.S. Sharma. R.S. Sharma, Ancient History by R.S. Sharma. So R.S. Sharma is a Marxist historian. Whenever you will go through the book, you will come to realize he has explained whenever there was the expansion of agriculture in Ganga Valley, or you can say in Middle Gangetic Basin, which was having the fertile region but heavily forested. So through iron implements, when the forest was cleared, so the background for agrarian practices was created. And then this led to the surplus production in agriculture, and surplus production in agriculture will create the background for the development of craft, trade and commerce, money economy, and finally second, urbanization. And he also tried to link the economic change with the social and cultural change. So Buddhism was supposed to be the outcome of the economic change. So he tried to explain that whenever there was the agrarian surplus or second, urbanization, so as the economy started to generate the heavy surplus, so some sort of rivalry started between Brahmins and Kshatriyas for appropriating the surplus in their favor. And this led to the rise of the heterodox sects like Buddhism and Jainism. And he also gave the example that it is not merely a coincidence that Buddha, Mahavir and many other, you can say, heterodox thinkers of the time, so they were coming from the Kshatriya group instead of Brahmins. So they tried to give a challenge to intellectual supremacy of Brahmins. And this phenomena is linked to the economic change. Here my point is that this is the Marxist interpretation. But you will also realize the fact that if economic changes or economic surplus could given birth to Buddhism, so after coming into being, even Buddhism influenced the contemporary economy and it gave a boost to the urban economy of the time. So both are complementary to each other. So this is the Marxist interpretation. But whenever the student is purchasing a book, so simply he just you can say try to find out the name of the authors and purchase the book. But it is equally important for him that the book you are purchasing, so you should know the author which has compiled this book, what is his specific ideology in interpretation of history. So my students, this is about the basics how to make a study. Up now the diagram number first, diagram number second, which I have discussed with you. So I have given here the detailed information. So this is the point here. Up now this aspect I have not to discuss. In the next one, two factors I have to discuss first, then we have to move from the prehistoric periods or the part first onwards. First one, actually whenever you are making a study of ancient history, that is the history of 100 years back and 1000 years back. So for the study of such a history, we are not having any eyewitness who could have explained about the changes. So then how could you make an access to the development which have taken place hundreds and thousands years back without any eyewitness who will work as or which will work as the sources of study. So we have to firstly, because a historian had to work as a spy, just like James Bond, try to find out even the past is as the present is complex. So even past is complex. So how to explore the truth out of the so many confusions. And yet the historian has to play the role of an spy as well, and he has to smell the truth from so many untruth and confusions. So next one topic I'll prefer to make a study of sources of study. The next topic I just prefer to discuss with you. So far you will try to understand our history from archaeological and on the basis of archaeological and literary evidence. But these evidences are just presenting the Indian perspective about history, But my question is here, what is the view of those foreign travelers who came to India at that time? What's their specific view in this regard? So we will also try to observe ancient history from the prism of the foreign travelers. So that would be the next one topic for you. And then we'll discuss this aspect. Now you may be a bit curious how to answer the question. But my students, you have to develop some patience for that, because to develop and to make you develop the answer writing, that is my specific passion. Because your knowledge is translated into answer writing, only then you can face the marks and qualify the examination. But for reaching up to the stage of answer writing, you need to have some workable knowledge behind that. But as you are curious, you are also having the right to know about some form of answer writing. Normally, go through the question bank, you will come to realize that the size of the question is maximum 200 words. Short notes 150 words, long question 200 words. This is the size of your question in an optional paper. So now you have to not to write, but you have to follow some formula and some rules in writing. So I am talking simply about the rules in order to quench your thirst. But you should not develop ambition to learn the art of writing at this stage. You will go through the topic and acquire some knowledge. So then you will do justice to the writing. Up here, I am giving some example. Whenever you have to do the writing, the first formula is we are supposed to give, because the size of the question is 200 words, etc. So better to, the first one beginning is introduction. But in introduction, we cannot spend too many lines. Simply we can there create one line or maximum 2 lines according to the requirement of the question. To start the question, how to start the question. And there should be a good beginning. You might have heard a proverb, well begun, half done. And then the first one, after introduction, next one point is, that is introduction. Introduction. And the next one point is thesis. After introduction, the next one point is thesis. What is thesis? Actually, whenever you will observe the question, so questions are normally 2 types. One is called hypothetical question, another is argumentative one. In hypothetical question, you are simply given some hypothesis which you are supposed to prove. There you cannot question this hypothesis. But in argumentative question, you have to take the stand first and then you have to give support to the stand. So argumentative question is a bit more standard. But in first paper, particularly in ancient history, more number of questions you will find the hypothetical question. So whether it may be the question is hypothetical or argumentative, but still you are supposed to write a thesis first. Thesis means what stand you are going to take on the question. And then in the support of your stand, you are supposed to do the rest of the writing. That is known as thesis. Then third one is transition. third one in transition. Now, what is transition? I have to discuss with you. In fact, in case of transition, I have to tell you that transition, if you are writing while changing the paragraph in question size of 200 words, you will give the thesis, then you can create 2 paragraphs. Or if in some questions, if you are having the scope for giving some points, you can even give some points. But here, be careful. There is no substitute to analytical answer. Even if you are giving the points, it does not mean that you will simply give the information. You are not the newspaper reporter, but rather you have to work as you can say a member of editorial board. You have to give your opinion, and opinion cannot be simply given in the points. So you can, even in order to draw the attention of the examiner, because examiner would be careful about the fact that here you have taken this one stand, you can give the points for your convenience, but that would not be a substitute for your opinion. Be careful. So if you are moving from one paragraph to other paragraph, then the third one aspect is transition. What is transition? Means that there should be some sort of continuation between the last line of the previous paragraph and the first line of the new paragraph. So this is known as transition. This is known as transition. So in this way, you have to go from paragraph to paragraph. And the last one is conclusion. Now sometimes the student is asking the question, okay, sir, even if the size of the question is 200 words, should you need to give some conclusion? It is just like the thing you will find an ox, a very, you can say, well-built body but without horn. So just like you are writing the good answer, but if you are not giving some conclusion, so it will give some sound of incompleteness. And what is conclusion? So whatever you can say stand you have taken in the question and whatever argument you have given, so lastly you will sum up the argument, that is conclusion, and that is essential. Now you may be a bit curious, better to give some example. Here I am citing some example, and as I have not entered into the topic, so unfortunately I cannot give you any example from the topic itself. So I am creating a question. Normally you will not find such a question, but for your sake of convenience, I am creating some question. Suppose if question would be, do you agree with the view of do you agree with the view of tripartite division of Indian history? Tripartite division of Indian history given by James Mill. Do you agree with the view of tripartite division of Indian history given by James Mill? I will go through this question. James Mill, Hindu period, Muslim period and British period, just I have given to you the information. So this question is argumentative question. And one of the rules behind the question writing is better to underline the keywords. Keywords is, do you agree? View of tripartite James Mill. These are the keywords, and it is on this basis of the keywords what I have told you. if the question is argumentative, then you are supposed to take the stand first. So there you have to make your stand clear. And this stand is what? A stand is whether you agree with the statement of James Mill or not. You have been clear कि no, you have not to agree with the statement of James Mill. So obviously you will start the question. So first you are supposed to give an introduction. Here I am giving the introduction. As the first introduction, you can just make this point clear. It is irony. Irony means some sort of surprising thing. It is an irony that Indian history was authored first by a British scholar, James Mill, in the beginning of 19th century. In the beginning of 19th century. Means कि you have done a very smart beginning because you have given a very striking point, but your introduction would get matured through growing knowledge. Immediately you will just try to start a question, so that will be a big challenge for you. You will hesitate while starting the question, so initially you will find such a problem. But this problem would not remain for a longer time. More and more knowledge you will gain. Particularly the introduction part would become easier for you. So now the second one line, you may ask, what should be the second one line now? In second one line, you can say, partially due to his ignorance of Indian society and partially due to his colonial interest, he has given a distorted picture of Indian history. So that is, now you are just moving in the direction of your thesis. And the third line could have been the purely thesis. Up here you can give the second one line. And the second one line is that partially due to his ignorance about Indian society, and partially due to his colonial interest. You are not familiar with the colonial interest presently, so you may be a bit curious what is colonial interest. Colonial interest means he just tried to create some cleavage within Indian society between Hindus and Muslims, because he was guided by the policy of divide and rule. So that is colonial interest. He gave a distorted picture of Indian history अब अब the second line is also very smartly just presented. अब now the third line is definitely, that is a thesis line. What may be the thesis line? His tripartite division of Indian history among Hindu period, Muslim period, and British period definitely a flawed idea. Whatever you can give, you have just given a hint. You don't agree with the statement. So you have given simply here prefer to use the term flawed idea. My students, in fact, in the rest of the writing, whenever you're doing the thesis-based writing, you have given a thesis. And rest of your writing should be there in order to give support to the thesis. So now in the next one paragraph, you will change the paragraph. So you have to give the argument to prove how the idea is flawed. But dear students, I have not presently given you the informations. How will you refute this point? Later, whenever I will teach you historiography from next to next topic, there you will be clear. About the Hindu period, it is said the people of ancient India would not prefer to call themselves as Hindu. For the first time, it was the Arabian people who preferred to call them Hindu, and the term Hindu originated from the term Sindhu. Secondly, whenever the James Mill prefers to choose the term Hindu, so he is having some Brahmanic culture into his mind. But truth is that during ancient periods, side by side Brahmanism, even Buddhism and Jainism existed. Likewise, Muslim period is having following flaws, this term. Firstly, the history is not made by, you can say, selected few among the ruling class, rather by the majority of the people. And if the majority of the people was non-Muslims, then why did you prefer to call this period as Muslim period? Secondly, even if you prefer to call it the Muslim period, on the ground of the ruling class, you have to be familiar about the fact that along with the Muslim rulers, even Hindu rulers were ruling at that time. And last but not the least, whenever, so far as the question of the expansion of the Muslim power in Indian subcontinent, so for that there is not any specific period. In North India, the Muslim rule was established in the end of 12th century. But in Punjab, it had already been established in the beginning of 11th century, and it was in the beginning of 14th century it could move towards the southern India. So that's why there was not a definite date. So in this way, likewise in the British period, if you have divided history on the basis of religion, so better to prefer to call as the Christian period in place of the British period. And secondly, British never worked as the natives of India. They always worked as the outside oppressors of the Indian people. Then why this period should be characterized on their name? So in this way you will, and lastly, in one line you can give the conclusion, that's why this nomenclature is not justified. In this way you will end your answer. So I will just from time and again. I will discuss about the question answer. My students, in the next one issue I have to discuss how is historians work as a spy to dig the past with the support of archaeological and literary evidence. So I'll see you later. Thank you very much in the next one lecture.